Howdy folks, and welcome to today's video. We're in the Leopard 1, we're on Malinovka, which happens to be one of my favorite maps in the game. This particular tank at the moment is top of the tree, which means you guys will be getting some XP boosters, XP bonuses when you're grinding the line. What is the Leopard 1? Well, like many other medium tanks of its kind, the Leopard 1 is a support tank. Don't mistake it with just a sniper tank, right? If you're only sniping with this tank, well, I can safely tell you that you're not really using the most of it. Support tank basically means you need to snipe, you need to spot, you need to flank, you need to take a shot if you have to. All that goes into the support role of a tank, right? It's like a jack of all trades, if you will. Well, yeah, since we're on Malinovka, I actually got two equipment setups for this tank, and for open maps like this one I have a rammer, turbo and CVS setup. You might be wondering why CVS. Well, I have started to give up, well, I actually gave up using optics on most of my tanks if I can get to at least like 445 V range, which as you might know is the spotting distance, the maximum spotting distance from which you can spot a tank. If you got like 500 and you're still not gonna spot it, you know. 445 is basically the maximum spotting distance. I stopped using optics because vegetation at the moment is let's say bugged, if you will. More like intended. Vegetation basically either gives you no camouflage at all, or it gives you ridiculous camo values, right? And a lot of the times you need to drive into tanks to spot them, which happens a lot, right? So I stopped using optics, instead I'm using CVS because CVS cuts on the moving camo a lot, which helps greatly spotting targets outside of the vegetation area. Of course, CVS also gives a bonus to spotting tanks behind foliage, but I don't really use it for that. I mainly use it for the bonus in taking camouflage off moving tanks, and it's tremendous help in spotting light tanks, right? Having CVS on your mediums can help you spot light tanks from really big distances, which is the main point why I'm using this on the open maps. So yeah, CVS, rammer and turbo on this tank for open maps. You don't necessarily need to use a vertical stabs on the Leopard. It has an amazing gun, so with or without it, well, you know, the Leopard will do the job. And of course, if you get a city map, well, I have hardening, rammer and vertical stabs. Hardening for extra HP, and vertical stabs so you can pop those snapshots faster with this tank, right? Because on a corridor slash city map, you need to shoot fast, not get hit if possible. Or if you do need to get hit, you got the extra HP from the hardening, so you can sort of trade, right? On Malinovka, and the usual case when going uphill from this spawn is teammates don't really go and take the windmill. Like, that's exactly what needs to be taken in order to win the hill. And when you don't go all the way up the hill and take the windmill, enemy team just comes swarming down and they have all the cooldown positions and they just farm you, right? It's one aspect people need to understand when they're playing Malinovka. If you don't go up the hill and don't go all the way in, it's pointless. You're gonna get beat, right? So the best thing to do when the enemy team has faster tanks than you, for example, or when they got better cooldown tanks than you, I can't necessarily say this is the case here. The matchup was pretty evenly balanced when it comes to tanks, but the enemy team went all the way in. So the best thing to do when you don't have the advantage of cooldown or faster tanks is to defend the hill from the base of it like this, you know? This position is like pretty overpowered when it comes to spotting. You can see everybody who comes downhill, you can shoot them and you can farm them like I'm about to do with my trusty Leopard. And it's amazing gun, right? And this of course works from both spawns. or you can do the same thing from the other side. You can stay at the base of the hill and farm the incoming tanks. And this will just give you a tremendous advantage. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've carried games from this position, because people go, they get farmed on the hill, then we're left with minus a lot of tanks. Yeah, like we lost a couple of tanks on the hill, so luckily we still have like the Udis alive. Not that it matters too much, because I told you this position is pretty OP, so we just do the usual double bush. Go in the bush, spot a target, fall back until the bush is not transparent anymore, and we can shoot without being spotted. For the people who are, you know, relatively new at the game and they don't know what double bush means. Spot target, fall back, not transparent anymore, and you won't be spotted when you shoot. Of course, I'm only looking at that direction towards the mouse. If you had like an enemy tank, let's say towards your side, you might get spotted. So yeah, this works very good in let's say carrying games, or like you making really nice comebacks. This position, because you can farm them really nicely coming down the hill. And I really recommend using this position if you have slower tanks, or if your team does not take the hill all the way, right? And it's especially great for tanks with no armor like the Leopard, because you actually get to be useful. What did I told you at the start of the game? Support. Snipe, spot, flank if you will. Well, we haven't really flanked yet, but you get the point, right? At the moment we basically kind of cut down all the enemy attack from the hill. All they have to do is finish this mouse and maybe finish all the leftover tanks. That was kind of my bad. I wasn't really supposed to knock over that tree. A mistake, if you will, slash not very wise thing I see people doing is they knock over all the trees in this position to get better camo. While of course, you know, you might be better protected 360 degrees if you knock everything over, it also makes the position pretty obvious, right? So yeah, it's, I personally wouldn't do it. I like to have the element of surprise. Like at this point they have no idea where I'm shooting from. I could be shooting from here, I could be shooting from way further in the back. You know, all they have to guide is that like little line you get when you get shot. So yeah, it's always better to be unpredictable, if you will. The tanks are getting closer now, like the 257. I was talking to you guys about double bushing just before. That mainly, well, it works for both bushes, all kinds of vegetation. It works for bushes and for falling down trees, trees like you knock over, right? There's a little difference though. When you do it behind normal bushes, when you do go behind, like let's say 15-20 meters behind the bush, it will become, it will not be transparent anymore. If you knock over trees though, you'll have to go way back until they don't become transparent anymore. But that doesn't mean you don't get the camo bonus, right? You can knock over a tree, for example, and just go back exactly the same distance you go when you use a normal bush, and you still will get the camo bonus, even if the tree is see-through yet. I don't know if that's something they didn't want to, I don't know, script yet, or I don't know what it is, but just so you know, in case you guys get confused sometimes, I've seen a lot of people, and it's happened to me too, right? It's confusing when you knock over a tree and for example, you knock over a tree, you are behind it the same distance as you'd be behind the bush to get the camo bonus, and some tag just rolls over right in front of you at very small distance and you don't spot it. So you can understand why people would get confused by the fallen down trees, right? Anyways, we finished farming everybody who was pushing downhill, so the obvious thing to do was to push up and just clean whatever was left. In our case there was an SD1, and now well, we have the 257 here. One thing to remember, when you want to clear tanks, either in the position where the Kunstpanzer is or the 257, make sure you go exactly where I am, because that will keep you safe from extra crossfire. Like, if you go a bit more on the right of my position, you can get shot from snipers in their forest, so make sure you use this little ridge line to protect you, right? Of course, if there's still people on the hill or if there's arty, it's not really gonna help you, but I did say that I went up to clean the hill, so at this point I'm kinda expecting some support from the rest of my team. I'm hoping they will advance so we can get the 257 killed, and after that it's just gonna be like a straight push towards the forest, right? Yeah. In all this time though, we've been using the lovely Leopard gun. Really nice penetration, accuracy, and aim time on this one. That's why it's one of my favorite mediums in the game. Maybe even or maybe even my favorite medium, like my favorite medium period, right? Amazing gun handling, and yeah. Now we just peeked a bit in the bushes to see if we can spot anything. The 114 was moving, so we spotted them pretty easy. And he kind of gets a bit lucky with the shots. And yeah, he gets away. But such is life, right? We have been praising the Leopard's gun a lot, so I'm afraid I put a little jinx on it. There's only the Leopard left. It's just like a mad dash towards the leftover damage. Everybody will be pushing now. You guys saw a great example of how to defend the base. I mean, you can defend, you can make huge comebacks in very few tanks, right? But of course, the enemy team also has like a big factor in this. If the enemy team, let's say, would have pushed all together at the same time with a lot of tanks, that could have been too much for us to handle, right? Or if the enemy team would have played smart and tried to get closer and closer with scouts or with like faster tanks, would have been hard for us to like defend from the base of the hill. But in our case, we just had like a pretty common team. They fought up the hill. As soon as they got spotted, they tried to go back, lost HP, so yeah, we were able to carry really nicely with our Leopard. All you gotta do is clean this bad boy right now, and easy life, easy damage. Hope you guys will enjoy the Leopard being top of the tree.